few seconds ago, I tried this up in back of my house in front of my wife's garden, but we are having 40-mile-an-hour gusts outside, so you couldn't hear anything. In fact, you'll probably be hearing stuff in the background clanking around on my porch, but it's just everything blowing around. I wanted to talk today about something to do with my wife's garden and kind of relate that to some other things that I think are important. My wife's garden is empty. The reason it's empty, it's not that she couldn't put anything in it if she didn't want to or wanted to, but her decision was to leave it empty for now because she feels it's kind of unfair. She does some stuff with Stein's, but sometimes Stein's is more expensive, and she would normally go to Walmart. But the fact that Stein's, our local, and some of our other local nurseries and things like that, they can't be open. They are deemed non-essential. Even though Walmart and some of the others, the larger, big box stores have the ability to sell their garden stuff because they sell other things that are essential. No one has told them they can't sell the non-essential things. So essentially, it really is, it's very arbitrary in nature, and there's been a lot of arbitrary reactions to things, and not a lot of things have come out fair in that. So she's saving up her money and just going to wait to put stuff in till things open up and try to do things like that. And in this whole thing, there's been this talk of trying to help businesses out and various things like that. The world is encouraging us to say support restaurants and various things like, to try to help the economy. And that's not a bad idea. I want to leave that discussion for just a second. We'll come back to it. And I want to talk about something that happened when we went to Ukraine in 2004, we found out the sign of the cross is very important over there, and even in places and among certain religious groups in the United States, it's very important. The sign of the cross is very important. And they do it before they go into a church building or whatever. And not only that, but it's important how you do it. They have a lot of these traditions. We talked about traditions the other day. And they think that's from the Bible. They're not really educated a lot in their Bible. They just know what the priests have told them and various things like that. And so I explained to them where it came from. It's not in the Bible. It didn't really happen at the beginning at all. It came along later when the church was being persecuted, and the Christians in the marketplace had this sign that they would do, and so it was kind of like an inside thing that one Christian would recognize, and they would see, here's another merchant that's a Christian. The Romans didn't understand what it was, and so I don't know if they ever caught on or not, but that was, at least for a while, how one Christian would keep his business thriving under persecution when they were trying to be forced out of business by these unfair rules that decided that Christians couldn't operate businesses. And so I want to go back, and maybe you're like, I see where he's going with this, but I'm going to kind of maybe button hook you a little bit. I do think it's important for us to try to use our money wisely and to try to help use whatever money we can. And the Bible even talks about using your money to make friends. That's something that Christians should do, is use our money to make friends. And maybe that's something we can think about here as things open up here in the next month or two. More and more, maybe even less than that, depending on where you're at. And but think about a couple of things, a couple of applications that I want to draw. And I know this is going to be a little bit shorter today, but I want you to think about two things. One is Christians. Think about Christian businesses and not just Christian businesses. You might know a person who has a business that's a Christian, and you're going to try to give them more than you might have originally, and so that's I think a positive thing to do. But I want you to think about something else too. Is that Christian organizations? We have these stimulus checks coming in. And I've mentioned this in a message sermon, so if you listen to our Sunday sermons, then you might have heard that. But you think of using some of that stimulus money for some of the religious organizations that are having difficulties. I think that's an important thing to do, kind of along those lines of seeing brothers in need, businesses in need. They're suffering too. And I want to now kind of take it where you might not have expected me to go, because I know a lot of people are very America first, and there's going to be a backlash, I think, against China, and maybe that's deserved, over some of what's gone on. They've hurt a lot of countries because of their misinformation and not being open and upfront about what was going on when maybe this could be mitigated worldwide. So there's going to be a lot of businesses leaving China, I assume, or at least trying to lessen their presence there. There's going to be a lot more, I think, America, at least in America, Buy American, there's always been that, but I think this is going to at least shunt money away from China. Maybe it will go to other countries that produce goods that we import. But I want you to think for a moment, and this is not, there are multiple motives you could have, because Chinese goods are cheaper, and that's nice, like Walmart and the dollar store and all the places we go. A lot of them really just get their stuff from China. And I want you to think about the fact, as you try to take your money elsewhere, how many people in China are Christians? There are a lot of Christians in China. And I don't know where they're at, and I can't guide my dollar bills to them. That would be great if I could. But I do know that as work leaves China, that Chinese people and Chinese Christians are going to feel the weight of that. And so unless you can direct your money specifically to Chinese people, then there's going to be a net loss among Chinese Christians. So I want you to think about that. And it's kind of, I know I kind of button hooked you at the end there, but with what we have, we need to think about not just making sure the coffee shop up the street stays in business, or the gardening center stays in business, or what have you, but to make sure that God's people the world over, and various charities and various things like that, are being sustained through difficult times. So, all right, see you tomorrow.